On imom.com, we share ideas, insight, and inspiration. We do all that here too by sharing the best kind of stories, mom stories. We're all at different ages and stages, but one thing we have in common is that we're striving, and sometimes struggling, to love our children well. It's the iMom Podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the iMom Podcast. My name is Abby. I'm with Chloe and Susie, Maggie, Chloe, and Abby.
Cute.
Can we, please? Do I have your permission, Susie and Maggie?
I was called Susie at one point in my life. Susie Q.
My dad calls me Maggie, so we're good.
Right.
Sweet.
So this week's episode, we're talking about family meetings, how to have them and why to have them. And this topic has been popping up in my Instagram feed nonstop. And I'm like, all right, Lord, are you working through Instagram to tell me that my family needs to get together? So I posed the question to them over dinner one night. I said, hey, I'm thinking about maybe we should start having a family meeting. And everybody was totally gave a lackluster response. Even my older son, who would, I feel like, just love the idea of getting together for a meeting. So I want to start them, but we've never done them before. I asked one of our iMom writers, Lisa, and she said, we have friends who have 3 teenagers, and they recently held a family meeting to talk about the air conditioning. This was a specific meeting just about the AC. Who controls it? Because the kids think that they can turn it down to 65 degrees whenever they want. And so in the family meeting, they announced an upgrade to their house, a thermostat lockbox, which I love. And I just thought, this makes the type A in me and the person that loves organization. I feel like I come alive on the inside. I'm like, yes, let's have a meeting and announce things and have an agenda and stuff. So I've never done it before. I did not grow up having them. We don't have them yet now, but I want to start them. So I kind of wanted to talk about best practices and just the benefits of doing this. So did you grow up doing them, or do you do them now in your families? What do you do?
We do not do them right now. Sometimes my husband and I will occasionally meet to discuss our calendars for the upcoming week or anything else we need to talk about, but we need to get better about doing it, and probably about family meetings in general.
Susie,
I did do them growing up.
What about you, Susan?
Yeah, we did do them with our kids growing up, and Mark and I still do them.
Okay. So what was it like when you were younger? What did you do as a family? How often did you meet?
Well, there were 7 of us total. So it was usually once a week. And to be honest, I don't know if
What did we talk about?
I don't know. I honestly don't remember. I feel like it was probably more of a Devo time than it was a family meeting.
I like that.
I honestly don't know what we talked about.
That's nice.
Chloe, what about you?
We did not do them growing up, but Trent and I do them now. And every Sunday we have family meeting. We have a shared note that we put in stuff all throughout the week, and that's the agenda for Sunday.
Interesting. So do you have a specific time you meet?
Usually around 2 or 3.
Okay, it's Sunday and this is our time to discuss stuff. So a family meeting basically is an opportunity, if you're not familiar with the idea, it's an opportunity and a commitment by everybody in the family to get together to talk about anything from a grievance to a schedule change to syncing schedules, as in SYNC, not SINK. No, how do you spell sync? SYNC, not SINK. Yeah, syncing schedules, all the things that you would cover at a meeting, the things that you need to make a household run, you can do at a family meeting. So, Megan, do you think Hampton would be on board with a family meeting when the kids get older?
Oh, Abby, he is you. Nothing would thrill him more than to have an agenda and a family meeting where we all sit down and it's very organized and timely. Granted, I just hope that my kids are not me and are ADD, where they look around hey, what are we going to do next? Move on.
Can we
don't
be
have
done?
an agenda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why do you think, what are the main reasons that families should have meetings?
I think most of ours were either a Devo or we did do a lot of calendaring. In other words, okay, one of my kids has, travel ball. And so therefore, what are the rest of y'all going to do? How are we going to handle this? Who else has something that weekend? Or it was a case of we laid out all the family plans. Like, we're going to dinner with your grandmother this night. So especially when our kids were teenagers, making sure that they got time with extended family or had on their calendar those big family events, like somebody's birthday dinner or whatever. And everyone was going to be there. It was really important to discuss that.
So do you think there's like an ideal age of the kids to do them, or do you think there's a benefit for every age?
I think, when they're really little, I don't think there's much they're going to get out of it. But when you start talking about where do we want to go on vacation and how can we do things that everybody wants to do, you can't always prioritize unless you know what the kids want to do. And you don't want them growing up saying that they were going camping and 2 of the kids loved it and the other 2 hated it. And that's all you ever planned. So there has to be some place for them to have a voice about, what they like to do.
Yeah. What about you, Chloe? What do you think are some of the good reasons?
Well, I think the big thing for Trent and I is just syncing on schedules, like you said. And then we also do like touch bases on how we're doing emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and physically. And we got that from, there's a podcast called It's Doing Life with Tabitha and Ken. It's Ken Clater. He's a pastor out in Gainesville. But they're just touch base questions of like, how are you doing with your relationship with the Lord? How are you doing, with, work, different things like that, and just kind of an emotional, touch base.
Yeah, I think with couples, you can very easily slide into a lifestyle of you both kind of living your lives and you kind of just circle your lives around each other and you're moving and you're never quite overlapping. And this helps you connect again.
Yeah. And for me, I think, just being pregnant, I'm pretty emotional, and it helps me to know, okay, I'm feeling something really intensely, and I have Sunday afternoon at 2 to talk to Trent about it, and I don't have to talk about it right now because I don't want to open it up right now.
I think that is a really good point. And I think you can use that knowing that there's a meeting coming up, just like at work, like, okay, I know I'm meeting with this team on Tuesday. And so I don't have to stress about addressing this right now because I have time set aside where I know it's going to happen. Like if mom's really frustrated about laundry and that it takes the entire weekend, all I do is laundry, instead of yelling at the kids when she has to do the laundry, it goes on the agenda, and then everybody gets to contribute an idea to solve the problem.
Exactly. And I mean, like I had a friend text me on Thursday, I want to get together. I'm like, okay, I'll get an answer to you by Sunday because I know Trent and I are going to have that conversation Sunday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Susan, do you have any perspective on how you think that these meetings can make a family stronger?
I think when you are going through a period of conflict in your family, whether it's, your husband loses his job or someone in the family gets really sick, or in our case, we adopted 2 older kids. It was a lot of change at one time to really talk about those things and make sure that somebody's not hiding some things like Chloe just said, or, you never know what's really going on sometimes in your kids' minds. And if you don't have a kind of neutral place to discuss it, things can develop. Bitterness can develop, and you may not even know it.
Yeah, I think it also can reinforce your family identity. I think you just grow closer and bond when you come together, especially around the table. You come together and listen to one another, hear one another, give space to the kids to talk. I imagine Megan, looking back, obviously, well, maybe not, because Megan doesn't remember it. Once again, Megan's memory is not serving her.
Failed her.
I only have a certain amount of space in this head. I keep everything up there.
If you were not Megan, you probably, and you grew up with family meetings, you're like, gosh, this is something that my family prioritized, and this is what my family did. We met together, and whatever you think about your family, you're like, we were a family. We bonded. We were a unit. And I think the meeting can do that. Yeah. It builds a team mentality, and it, I think it's a neat opportunity too, to be intentional about your kids increasing responsibility. So you can say, okay, well, right now, this person is in charge of I don't know what, walking the dog. Maybe it's dad's job to walk the dog and your son is 7 and he's like, Dad, I think I can walk the dog. And you're like, all right, son, it's your turn. You know, you can be the dog walker now. And so he gets an opportunity to say, I'm ready for that new responsibility, or drive the car, not the 7-year-old, but you know, drive the car, stuff like that. So if you're like me, you like to know how, like, I want to know exactly how to do a family meeting to make sure it goes well. And like I said, I haven't done it, but from what I have read, there are some like best practices. The first one is to pick a date and time. You can do once a month. You can do once a week. Chloe, why do you guys do once a week? Do you feel like you needed that? Did you try once a month?
Yes, we do some things once a month. Like we'll do our budget once a month, but scheduling wise, so actually at the start of the month, we give dates for every piece of information we have for the month, but then we go over, okay, this is what's coming up this week.
Okay.
This week in Trent and Chloe's life.
Nice. See, when I mentioned it to my family the other night, it was Taco Tuesday. And I was like, what if once a month, you know, on the 3rd Tuesday of the month, after we do tacos, we've got this meal down pat. We know exactly what we're making. We know exactly how we're cleaning it up. I mean, we really can do it blindfolded. If once a month on Taco Tuesday, we transition into our family meeting. Again, nobody was interested, but
I'm surprised.
Whatever.
The moods are probably like great on Taco Tuesday.
It is. We have a playlist we listen to and everything. I mean, we've got it dialed in. But yeah, and then like I also like the idea if you do it once a month to do it like not at the end of the month, but like right before the end of the month, so that you kind of have a little bit of time to ease in to the following month. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I like that.
Like if you do it on like the last Friday of the month, then that means the next day could be, you know, the following month.
So true.
I would say a couple tips, because I have a couple kids who don't like to listen to long drawn out explanations of things.
Me being one of them.
Yeah. So is to, you know, when you call the meeting, or I guess you could probably even have a chalkboard up where people could put ideas for the meeting. Don't have a meeting if you don't need to have a meeting. But like Mark and I would often meet before the meeting and discuss, okay, we're going to talk about this fun thing, but we need to slide in we need to also talk about this other thing that's happening, you know, with a couple of the kids and how that impacts the other kids and blah, blah, blah. So, you know, make sure it's short, sweet, you know what you want to talk about, and you have a way to step away from the meeting too. If things escalate, gets heated. Okay, you know, this is good. A lot of discussion for mom and dad and I to think about. And I'm glad you guys brought up these points, and we'll get back to you.
You might need like, did you guys read Lord of the Flies? You might need like a conch shell or something. Like someone has to be holding the conch to be able to talk.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I think that's good though. I do think that, you know, make the agenda. You can even print one out if you want or write it on the whiteboard, but talk to your husband about it ahead of time so that you're not springing something on him. Like, okay, on tonight's agenda, we're going to talk about so-and-so using the car on the weekends. And he's like, no.
Yeah, I like that. And I like the idea of meeting with your husband before and making sure you're on the same page.
And just make sure that you've got it tight. You don't have to discuss everything. You may want to defer some things. But if you know something's going to take a good 15 minutes to discuss, maybe that's the only thing you keep on there, because for an hour agenda is too much for kids. I mean, it's just, you know, keep it fun and short. Maybe you serve popcorn. Maybe this is one time they get to have soda. So like it feels like, oh, official, this is our meeting time. And this is the good part of it.
Well, and that is a good transition to my next question. What would you add? So this is your personal like family meeting that you want to go to. What would you have to have at your family meeting in order to be interested in coming? Snacks. There, I said it. Snacks.
I'm just excited to talk about schedules. But we do have food. That's a big thing for us. We usually do it around like a meal.
For me, thinking of my kids, it was, okay, it has to be at a good time. If I'm keeping them from something else they want to do, they're not going to have a good attitude in the meeting.
That's good.
What about you, Megan?
Are you talking about me as a child when I had to go to these family meetings? Or
I want
me
to
as an
know
adult
both. I want to know little Meggie and then adult Meg. And
little Maggie was probably incentivized by food because little Maggie was a little piggy.
whole pizza.
Stop.
Yeah.
One whole pizza for Megan.
Adult Megan, I am very much a planner, so I do appreciate that aspect when I know what Hampton has going on and what I have going on so that we can coordinate. But also, I do like the fact that it kind of relieves him of any, he very much likes the organization and likes just talking about different things, whether it's finances or us together or whatever. He likes knowing that we've had that conversation. So I do like, giving him that satisfaction, I guess.
I will say the problem with little Maggie, if you let her know too far in advance that we had a family activity or something planned, she wanted to know if she could bring a friend.
Not a family meeting, little Maggie.
Sorry. I love that you were talking about like what your husband would need. That's another reason. Like you can't treat it as like a dictatorship where like, here's the agenda and here's what we're doing, because he's just not going to buy in. And you want it to be something that really excites him too. And if getting the calendar out or talking about how the electric bill this month was really high and kids, we need to turn off the lights, like find out what he cares about and then include that on your agenda.
Yeah.
I would say also, if this is the only time your family ever talks, it's not going to be fun for your kids. So one thing we also did at dinners is, which it's not a family meeting, but we had a jar of questions on the table and we would pull out and answer a question like at dinner, like everybody had to answer. So it gets your kids used to having conversations together. If they don't ever converse together and you don't ever talk of it as a family and you call a family meeting, it's going to be looked at as boring, something
Right.
we have to go to versus this is what we do.
Yeah. We used to, I don't know what gave me this idea, but we had a mason jar that had some slips of colored paper in it. And everyone in the family was assigned a different color. And so Graham was green, Liam was yellow, I was pink, and then my husband was blue. And randomly, we could grab a sheet, a little rectangle of paper of that person's color and write something kind about them or like something that we saw them do that was good, just some kind of compliment. And then at dinner, we would pull out, so like not that person would pull out another person's sheet and get to read aloud something, kind of affirming or whatever. And I think stuff like that, especially if you already do it, but even if you don't, that would be like a really nice way to start the meeting, just making everybody feel good and feel loved. And that would, I think, just increase the sense of cooperation and family.
Some team bonding.
Yeah. Maybe do some trust falls. I like the idea of like a song or some, just music, something that would lighten the mood and make it less heavy. We have a great printable to create your family mission statement. So maybe you, like nerds, you start your meeting with reciting your family mission statement. I love that idea too.
I like that.
Well, and I remember BJ telling us this, he's on staff, is that whenever he would read the Bible with his kids, he would give them like chocolate or ice cream or something, so that they always in their minds identified that with something sweet or good.
Mm-hmm.
So I loved that idea, because I was like, that's a great, what do you call it? Like Pavlov's?
Yeah, just an association.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I like
Yeah, I like it too. And that's a good point, starting with some type of Bible verse or, Devo moment. It can be quick and can be a 2-minute thing. But the thing about the mission statement too, is that then throughout the meeting, if there's a disagreement or some type of like language that's used or something like that, you can keep coming back to your mission statement and go, okay, so this thing that we're talking about that we want to do or that we don't want to do, does this help us live up to our mission as a family? You just keep on coming back around to that. And I like including on the agenda, not just business. So it's not just about the schedule or how we're going to figure out the thermostat or whatever, but it's like maybe there could be a line for dreaming. Like, okay, as a family, what do we want to dream about together?
Yeah.
Maybe our next family trip, or I don't know what.
I like it.
Or we do this at work. I did not do this with my family, but it would have been really good. Have shout outs, like shout out where you shout out what something that did great this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of like those little slips of paper too. Oh,
Yeah.
but if you do it every week though, to be able to look back over the past week.
Yeah, to go around.
I love that idea. All right. Well, I think I'm going to start it. I'll give you a recap once we do it and see if my kids, it's got to be the snacks. I think I'm starting with snacks. I'm going to lure them in with food.
Now I'm thinking I want to start our meetings with a pride moment, like our All Pro Dad chapter program. They, when they meet once a month, they go around and it's, dads and kids meeting in schools. The dads will stand up and say something they're really proud of their kid
So are you going to stand up and say what you're proud of in yourself, or?
No, I'm going to say something I'm proud of that Trent did, and he's going to say something that he's proud of me for.
I'm so proud of Chloe.
I'm proud of myself.
I'm so proud that Chloe is doing a shout out for the All Pro Dad Chapter Program. Start a chapter in your school today.
We'll put a link in the show notes. Yes. I love it. All right. Well, I would love for, families to start doing more family meetings. I hope this episode has inspired you. I'm going to put links in the show notes so that you can get some ideas, because we have a few articles about like what makes a good meeting, how to get them going. So check those out. And thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the iMom podcast. iMom is the motherhood program of the nonprofit organization Family First. Along with our fatherhood program, All Pro Dad, we exist to help you love your family well. Subscribe to our daily email, the iMom Minute, by going to imom.com/subscribe and get tons of great ideas, insight, and inspiration. The iMom podcast is hosted by me, Abby Watts, along with Susan Merrill, Megan Tigner, and Chloe Blumenthal.